Welcome back to the Magical Mothering Method. I'm Stephanie Matthews, and this is week 51, the Divine Feminine Chakra Reprogramming. So much of the past 12 and a half months that we've had together has really been about integrating, connecting, bringing in new thoughts, new belief systems, new ways of thinking. And we're not done yet. Now that you have integrated all of the parts of you, stepping into a pathway that has really been allowed to open up before us, to connect with masters that are not here in the physical body, and to step outside of the normal realm and really be pulled into the multi-dimensional world that there is, and see that there is more happening beyond this physical plane. And in order to do that, it does require really integrating or putting on new traits, realizing what the divine feminine traits are, just as we did with the divine masculine. And when we adorn ourselves equally with the divine masculine traits and we do with the divine feminine traits, there is this balance for us to really move throughout this multidimensional plane in a way that is filled with ease and grace. Now, I don't want us to be bamboozled by this idea that there will be no more issues, that there will be no more interactions that are tricky. And in fact, as the world is changing rapidly, there will be more things that come up that we will be able to integrate this knowledge, integrate and adorn ourselves with these characteristics, integrate and create space to be whole, utilizing the resources, the coping skills, the activations, and the integrations that we have received for the past 13 months to really create solutions to these issues rather than seeing them as overwhelming problems in the world, and being able to really be a beacon of light to those in the world around us, allowing for others to step up into their higher selves versus having to be pulled down, stuck in the stagnation, pulled into their lower selves, and unable to process the world, feeling helpless or hopeless, or waiting for a savior to come to their rescue. None of these things are helpful in creating solutions or in creating a new paradigm or way of thinking about the world that we live in. So let's dive in to a few of those divine feminine characteristics that we now get to adorn ourselves with. So I have 13 characteristics of the divine feminine that I'm going to kind of share, and we're going to adorn ourselves with or reprogram with today. But there are many more. And as you intuitively, which is the first characteristic, is to step into life through our first mind, which is our gut, which is that solar plexus or the sacral, right? Some people have a sacral gut, some people have a solar plexus gut, some people have a splenic gut. Depending on your human design, your gut will be situated in one of these, and this is your inner authority, your inner knowing. And so as it's in this solar plexus space, that is really that space of where you get your authority from within. And does it come from an emotional authority? Does it come from a deep resonant knowing of a yes or no answer? Does it come as a spontaneous knowing? All of these can be correct depending on which authority you have. And if you'd like to learn more about your human design, please just send me a message and we can set up a human design session to really dive in and find your specific pathway according to your human design. And this just opens up things so much easier. So the first and foremost trait of adorning ourselves with the divine feminine is really trusting, knowing, having a great relationship, and listening to that divine or intuitive knowing, that thing within you, that still small voice within you. And this is such a valuable asset. It can keep you out of even getting in the way of what could be perceived as problems to begin with. As you listen to your intuition, it will guide you into these circumstances and situations where you go, wow, I just avoided this whole thing simply because I listened to my intuition. And then when you don't listen to your intuition, you're going to see very quickly, very clearly, okay, I did hear a nudging and I decided to ignore it because I wanted to do this instead, or I felt that I had to do this, or I wanted to please this person by doing this and I didn't say no, or I didn't say yes. So intuition is vitally important. The next aspect is the divine feminine is heart-centered. When we are heart-centered, there is an openness, a trustingness, a willingness to move forward from a heart space rather than an overthinking space, or a fear-minded space, or a small thinking, or a small living, small being space. When you're heart-centered, it's almost as if your heart opens up the pathway. And so I want you to just be in that space right now. Tap in, drop in if you can, to this heart space. And if you need to redo the heart chakra and really open back up that heart space because it's kind of closed up again, do that. Open up that heart space. And so that intuition, I want to go back to that for just a moment, that intuition is in the seat of our womb as well. So the sacral, the solar plexus is really that action, divine masculine space, that really, it's the action taken by our intuition. It's our ability to put into movement our gut reactions. That is the solar plexus, and that's our, kind of our doing or acting. And the sacral is really that seat, that space, that womb space, right? And so this womb space, this sacral, is what 70% of the people in the world have. So a large majority of even the people within this program are going to have their sacral space be the seat of their intuitive knowing. And then the action aspect is going to drop into or bump up into the divine masculine as an action oriented. And then one step further is the heart center space, which is another divine feminine chakra. So if we want to start from the beginning, root is masculine, sacral is feminine, solar plexus is masculine, heart space is feminine, throat chakra is masculine, third eye is feminine, crown is masculine, and so on and so forth. So it's a really interesting parameter for going through this and seeing the divine qualities even within these spaces, and knowing that each of these spaces is a way to even balance within our own selves this ability to be in this. And I would even say the crown, being the seventh chakra, is a divine masculine, divine feminine balance versus purely divine masculine. So if that can make sense for you. Now we're going to step into the aspect of compassion. This again is really stored in this heart space. And yet we want it to start in the sacral space. We want to really birth and create and embody the whatever realities we're putting out there from a space of compassion that move up into the heart space. That way it's really integrated and put into action. Now, we were talking about the third eye being a feminine aspect, and this is wisdom. We are not meant to be spinning our wheels and constantly in a space of overwhelm or anxiety. Those are really the shadow aspects or the victim aspects of the feminine in the third eye. And so allowing for ourselves to use our lessons to really integrate and know wisdom deeply. Another aspect that we are going to be adorning ourselves with is acceptance. When we did the heart chakra, there was this absolute knowing, loving, and acceptance. We did this in the root chakra when we first met our inner child. Acceptance. And this is really going to eliminate the expectations that we have of others and ourselves and the world and everything in it. Is when we release expectations and move into acceptance. This does not mean that we get walked all over. This does not mean that we put ourselves last. This does not mean that we accept behavior that is unacceptable to our frequency or our vibration. This does not mean that we accept things into our lives that are not good for our highest and best. What it does mean is we allow for people to be on their own journeys, accepting that that is the path they are taking without trying to control, manipulate, or dominate, really allowing for ourselves the freedom to be in acceptance of our highest and best, releasing the need for everybody else to know or do whatever it is that they think is their highest and best. Even if you know it's not in their highest and best, you don't know their journeys. And so it doesn't mean that you have to be a victim of their vibrational frequency. You can release them in unconditional love and acceptance and create a barrier or a boundary or a strong divide with your frequency, knowing that you need to stay in your own lane. And maybe your paths crossed so that you could actually learn and grow and be in a space of being able to give to yourself, seeing the mirror that you no longer are wanting to be a reflection of. Breathe that one in. Next, the next trait we are going to adorn ourselves with is forgiveness. We did this again in the heart chakra space. So there's so much that can go into really allowing for forgiveness to happen. And again, forgiveness is not forgetting. Forgiveness is not getting into a relationship or a circumstance with individuals who are showing behavior that is not in alignment with your own journey. That is not what forgiveness means. Forgiveness means releasing the hold, the emotional constriction that this experience has had for you, and allowing that experience to be released and transmuted into that violet flame like we did in the Divine Masculine, so that you can be set free. That is forgiveness. Forgiveness actually has nothing to do with the other and everything to do with us. It is a very personal, individually beneficial practice that is not there to serve the other, but it is there to serve us and set us free. It takes trust. It takes acceptance. It takes forgiveness. It takes compassion. It takes wisdom. It takes intuition and being heart-centered to really be in a collaboration. And so all of these things need to be in space, not only for ourselves, but in those who we are collaborating with. Next divine feminine trait that we want to adorn ourselves with is this aspect of being reflective. And in this space, we need space. We need time and quiet and nature to be reflective, to just simply look at our own behaviors, to look at our own actions, to look at our own belief systems. Being reflective is taking an inventory. What are all the ways in your life that you feel right? What are all the ways in your life that you feel like you are doing the right thing and everybody else is wrong and you can't believe that they're doing it? These are those things that you should be or can be very reflective about, because as you create awareness around places that you feel right in, that's exactly what that is exactly what the divine feminine is not. The divine feminine is not right. The divine feminine is not going to try to prove herself or her point. The divine feminine is going to use the wisdom of compassion and collaboration and being from a space of heart-centeredness to bring ideas and belief systems that are outdated into a new paradigm so that everybody feels encouraged, loved, accepted, forgived, and we can move into a whole new paradigm. It's not about choosing a side. It's not about being right in the side that you chose. If you're choosing a side at all, that is the complete opposite of the divine feminine. And so whenever there's these constricting ideas of you must choose one, that is not the divine feminine. And that's not actually the divine masculine either. Divine masculine is using analytics and logic and assertiveness and this aspect of really being an embodiment of wholeness with confidence. But that does not mean that you're being assertive and dominant and controlling and telling others how to think or believe. So the next aspect that is very sacral is this creative energy. And there's a few, there's creativity is one of the traits. Sensuality is another one of the traits. And in that sacral space is that creativity and sensual energy. And if you need more guidance on that, go back to that sacral video and you can connect with that space there, really getting a full healing and activation. Now, the last three are kind, gentle, and trusting. We live in a world where we have become accustomed, or we have become used to a belief system that if you are kind, gentle, and trusting, that you will be taken advantage of, that you will get hurt, that you will fail, that you will be used. And that is an actual belief system. So as the divine feminine really adorns us, we can recalibrate this ability to be kind, gentle, and trusting. And again, it takes having wisdom and listening to our intuition and accepting that people are going to be people, but that doesn't mean that we have boundaries. We can be kind and gentle and trusting without putting down boundaries that we have learned. Again, boundaries is that divine masculine of really integrating the aspects of the divine feminine into our divine masculine and making like this beautiful mixture of the two, where they balance each other, where we can be confident and collaborative, where we can be a warrior and trusting, where we can be sensual and we can be strong. So there's this aspect of really being gentle and assertive. They don't have to not exist together. These are things that can exist together. And this is really such an exciting time to really step into that aspect, that knowing, that deep, resonant being, and putting the divine feminine on. Imagining that it's like, I like to imagine it right here between my shoulder blades. And at one point I had more of a shield there. And now I imagine that I have this beautiful, it's almost like a box of light. And out of that box of light comes these wings that let me fly, and they are protective, and they allow for me to be able to soar using all of these qualities of the divine feminine without having to be scared of being used or being manipulated or any of these aspects. I can adorn myself in these, knowing that everybody in my journey I have met for a reason, and I am grateful for them, I forgive them, and I accept them, and then I can release them to continue on their journey while I continue on mine. And so think of maybe some people in your own life that have made it difficult to adorn yourself with some of these divine masculine qualities, and then forgive them, accept them, and release them to their own journey. I'm very much looking forward to hearing your own personal journeys with this divine feminine and all of these traits. Thank you so much for being on this journey and allowing for me to be on this healing journey with you. I'll see you soon.